Greetings, music lovers. Welcome to another episode of the Raaga Room with Deepa Joshi. Versatility is a form of virtue. A versatile state of mind allows us to explore, dig deep into arenas that open our minds to limitless possibilities. To possess this virtue in the world of music is quite something else. Our guest at the Raaga Room today is an educator, a musician, a pianist, a composer, the founder and director of the Berklee Indian Ensemble, Annette Philip.
Annette Philip, a musician, innovator, and influencer. A versatile vocalist hailing from Kerala, India, she is known for her dense choral arrangements, for concept-driven productions, and for delivering on big dreams. A seasoned recording and touring artist, composer, pianist, and voiceover professional, she's a judge and vocal consultant on the Emmy-winning American TV choral contest Sing That Thing on PBS. Among her various accolades are Woman of the Year in 2016 from the India New England Foundation and Artist of the Year in 2018 from the New England Choice Awards for her work as a musical impresario and thought leader. Annette's career has included memorable collaborations and performances with Grammy-winning artists such as A.R. Rahman, Bill Whelan, Zakir Hussain, Terry Lynn Carrington, Philip Bailey, Buster Williams, Jack DeJohnette, and Y.Z. Barnwell, as well as prolific artists such as Pandit Anindo Chatterjee, Nona Hendricks, Shreya Ghoshal, Ghatam Giridhar Udupa, Ranjit Barot, Shankar Mahadevan, and Clinton Saraho. She was featured soloist on a jazz urbane record produced by the late George Duke. A faculty member at Berklee College of Music since 2010, Philip is the founder and director of the Berklee Indian Ensemble, a viral phenomenon with close to 200 million views of its videos to date. From the ensemble grew an institute, Berklee India Exchange, of which she is the artistic director. The Berklee Indian Exchange ecosystem builds collaborative dynamism between Berklee and India through original content, high-profile artist collaborations, innovative educational offerings, and career pathways for Berklee students and alumni. Philip has personally experienced the healing power of creativity and imagination through such art forms as music, dance, photography, poetry, and fashion such as saris. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown, she launched the online reflection series Keeping It Light with Annette Philip, through which she inspires her global audience to use simple, effective tools like visual meditation, alignment breathing techniques, and mental pivots to find and create more calm, healing, and positivity. She plans to launch a Keeping It Light book, podcast, community resource page, global tour, and concert series using her global platform to share her affirming message of self-love, resilience, and kindness with those who need it the most.
I've seen beauty and abundance, mangoes bent with ripeness, the harvest of seeds that I've sown, crushed free of dew each morning by delicate sunbeams. Your blessings and bounty I've known. I've crossed dry and barren deserts where a dance of ghosts awakens, abandoned creations, forgotten and forsaken, a graveyard of animal bones. bowing at the altar of your setting sun. If I have been of worthy service, mark my brow with a sign of your...
Hi, Annette. Thank you so very much for coming to the Raaga room. A very, very warm welcome to you. And I've been following your work for so long. And it's such an honor to have a talented personality here and waiting to have this conversation, to learn about you.
Thank you so much, Deepa. It's lovely to be here, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. It's just, when we talk to people like you is when the dimensions really open. The more we talk and see how grounded people are and how there's so much humility in what you do, that kind of like makes you go on a journey and learn a bit more and explore. So more power to all that you do. A journey that began when you were barely 3 or 4 years old, I guess, when you listened to the pianist that was accompanying Luciano Pavarotti. From then on until today, what you do, being the founder and director of Berklee Indian Ensemble. I have heard you speak in some interviews where you call this journey a cathartic journey. So did you want to take us through your experiences, please?
Sure, but from the sense of catharsis, I mean, I think that I don't know that I don't know that I think of the whole journey as cathartic. There might have been cathartic experiences, but sure. It's just been it's been a wonderful ride. I think right from childhood, there was a sense that music has to be an integral part of life in everything that I do, and it was just it just gave me so much joy, and I've always followed my joy. And whether it was learning piano or learning trumpet and recorder when my family was living in Singapore, to getting much more into singing, and then getting into studio recording and jingles and voiceovers, and eventually realizing that I have a penchant for entrepreneurialism within music, which led to Artists Unlimited, and then much later with the Berklee Indian Ensemble and other projects. I think overall it's just been a fun ride. And yes, there have been cathartic experiences through that journey. But primarily, I think it's just been joyful and lots of exploration and lots more to explore in the years ahead.
Sure. One thing always leads to another. And you used this term, you said music entrepreneurship. That is, I think that kind of encompasses everything. And even to have the ability to absorb so many things that are around you. Wonderful. How did your induction happen into Berklee? Was that something that was always on your mind, that always you wanted to study here and explore your music in this space?
No, I had never heard of Berklee, to be honest. I was really happy being a full-time musician in India, and I had started Artists Unlimited, which was a collective that I began in New Delhi, where I was living at the time, around 2003. And by 2006, I felt, okay, I'm a little bit burnt out because it was my first baby, so to speak, and I was putting all of my time and energy into building this collective. And I was sort of, because I was young, I don't think I had quite understood delegation and division of labor as much as probably I do now. And so I was young and ambitious, but also inexperienced in terms of doing something that large and making sure that I didn't burn out. So of course, I immediately burnt out by year 2, year 3. I was just exhausted. And I think I was also exhausted from a creative perspective. I think I had used every bit of internal resource to, make this float. And we were doing huge productions. And around that time, through a friend, someone mentioned the name Berklee College of Music, and I had never heard of it until then. And I happened to go for a workshop that was hosted by a Berklee graduate, a Berklee alum. It wasn't even a Berklee workshop, but he just happened to, his name is Sam Scow. He came to India. He came to, if I'm not mistaken, it was Bangalore. And this is way, way back. This is probably 2005, end of 2005. And he did this workshop, which I attended. And that's where I realized, oh, there's actually so many more. Even though I've done many, many years, over a decade or a decade and a half of proper musical study, there's still so much more to be explored. So that's where I had this sense, maybe this is a place to go. And there was something in my gut that was telling me, this is probably a good idea. My parents said no for 2 years. Because I was a full-time musician in India. I'm an only child, and they were like, "Why do you really need to go? You're already an independent musician. You're a professional here. What is it that you need to go there for?" But something in me kept saying, "Just go, even if it's for one semester. Even if it's for 3 or 4 months. Just go and get some exposure and come back." And I think in hindsight, my parents do agree that it was really good that I stuck to my guns, and I waited. I waited 2 years till they were on board, and I made a deal with them. If I get a full scholarship, will you say yes? They said, yeah, okay, go ahead and try for it. And that worked out, So now when they see me, I mean, I would say even a year after I joined, when they visited me, they agreed. They said, you're right. You're right to follow your heart. You're right to follow your instinct on this. And we see that you're really happy and that you're growing and evolving, and that's what you wanted to do. And I still kept coming back to India, but somehow doors kept opening, and then the rest is history, as they say.
Um, when you were also just mentioning now about delegation, so many things. I mean, for somebody who's going through a journey, these are all such wonderful points to actually reflect on just a little bit, because you want to do everything yourself, and you know that you're doing it perfectly when you're doing it yourself. And even to delegate it to somebody, even when you train somebody, you think, are they going to match up to what expectations you have offered? So you would rather do it yourself. But there is such a beauty in delegating to train somebody to make them come up to their potential. I mean, these are all the things any entrepreneur should actually listen to. And when you did actually come here, was it like a kid in Candyland? You had so much to explore, so much to do, which way to go, what to do, how am I going to, and what am I going to pursue?
Yeah, I think the first day being here and just kind of walking around the halls at Berklee, I called my mom and dad and I said, it's like an alternate dimension. It's like some different planet of musicians and creative people. And I think the most difficult thing for me while I was a student at Berklee was um, deciding what not to do, what not to spend my time on, because there's just so many choices and so many options that it's very easy to go off on a creative tangent. And so that was probably the hardest thing. But yeah, it was a delight, and it's still a delight. On a daily basis, there's opportunities to learn and grow and evolve. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The other day when I was talking to you, you mentioned that you were putting together a music appreciation course. And I was thinking, wow, I mean, how beautiful is it? What are the things that they would actually explore in this course? I mean, there is so much to do. How wonderful. Continuing on the same thread, you talked about your experience coming to Berklee, and what led you to begin the Indian Ensemble. How did it all happen? How did you spearhead the operation? And it is doing so tremendously well.
Thank you. Thank you. So, when I started as a faculty, I think I got the best gift, which was a blank canvas, a blank slate. And I was told by the senior leadership, you're the first Indian musician, not Indian, but Indian musician to be hired as faculty. And if you could do something new that does not exist and that expands our community in some way, what do you want to do? I mean, you can do anything that you want. which I think is a great gift. I mean, it's really a dream come true. And the immediate reaction or the immediate response was there should be a performing ensemble that is exploring Indian music in all its forms, and let's start there, and make sure that what we've created is porous, so that it allows for influences and inspiration to come in from different parts of the world, depending on who's in the class, who's collaborating together. And yeah, it's been a great 11 years. We just got to our 10th anniversary last year, and it started out with a performance in just a classroom because it was a very new ensemble. But even that first show, way back in, actually it was May 2nd of 2011. So we just crossed that date a couple of days ago. And it was a sold out performance. I mean, albeit it was a very small room that we had. We probably had enough space for about 80 people, but there were another 50 to 80 people just standing outside in the corridor, listening for this whole concert. And it was, I think that was the day that it struck me, so there's an audience for this, not only within the college, but also outside. So I guess that means we should just keep going and trying new things every time. And so it's expanded a lot. And, from that one class, that seed of an idea has grown an entire institute, which is called Berklee India Exchange. And, we've had about 450 musicians from 50, maybe 55 countries who've been part of the family ever since. And we've done several high-profile artist residencies with, some of the greatest living legends of our time. And we do workshops around the world. We've awarded and raised millions of dollars in scholarships. And and now there's a new 10-year vision with the team. The team has expanded a lot. So it's very exciting. And I'm really grateful for that first opportunity, that first gift of, what do you want to do? You can do anything. If here's a blank slate, here's the open road, go for it, see what you want to do.
Wow. That also requires a lot of streamlining your thought process, isn't it? Because there is so much. And when you are given a clean slate, to put a plan together is also, you have to be quite evolved to come up with something that you are going to take forward. So I'm sure whatever you did was really amazing. Extending that line of thread. You just mentioned that you had students coming from 55 countries, and you had about 450 students in artist residencies. I was just thinking, like, if it were me, I mean, somebody who comes from a deep place of passion for music, and anything that you hear that is true and real, it does not have to be of a certain genre, but anything that you can connect with that seems real to you is something that you want to explore. There is so much potential. There are so many things available to you. Probably not for the same program, but you may find that this person is good at something else that they may be trying to do. And how do you kind of harness that each student is able to reach and do the best up and reach the potential?
So I see my role as a teacher more as a door opener and a facilitator, rather than someone who is trying to identify what each person is good at and try to kind of channel them in a particular way, because I think that the channeling is an individual journey. So I think that each of the students needs to kind of find their path, and our role as mentors, or as anyone who's sharing a particular type of knowledge, or even a holistic set of skills, our role is to open doors. Our role is to expose them to different things and then let them choose the path that they want. There are occasions where you're looking to do a specific project, and then you have an instinct about someone. And an example is we were uh, doing a production where I wanted to have some sort of movement choreographed for a particular song. And during rehearsals with the choir of the Indian Ensemble, I noticed that in downtime, one of our students who is from South America was really doing this very cool movement. And it was nothing related to our class. But that made me wonder if she might be interested in choreography. And so I just asked her very gently, very casually, "Hey, do you like to dance?" And she's like, "Yeah, I love to dance." And I said, "Have you ever choreographed?" And she said, "Kind of, not really." And I said, "Do you feel like you might want to? Because this is an opportunity, and if you want to, I mean, I'll always support, but do you want to just run it? Do you want to own that segment of the show and take on that aspect?" And she said, "Really? Yeah, I'd love to do it." And so she took it on, and she did amazingly well. And I think she was a very sensitive and kind and generous mentor to the other students in this particular area of choreography. And after the fact, I actually hired her professionally to come in and coach another group that I was doing a production with for a tour that we were doing in Japan. And I said, you just did such a great job on those two songs with ensemble. And again, if you want to, yeah, we just love to hire you for this. And so she's now with Cirque du Soleil. And again, I don't think I had much to do with that aspect, but I was saying it more from a place of, you know, I would say that is the way. It's more like you might see something and then you just ask. And then if they want to walk through it, they will. But if they don't want to, that's also okay. It just depends on what they choose and how they, how a student chooses to go. But I feel like I never want to be so attached to their choices because it's got to be an individualistic choice. You never want to force your ideals. You never want to force your aspirations onto a student. Just like the way I think parents should not force their ideals or beliefs onto their children. I think they should allow their children to choose for themselves. It's their life, So I try to follow that.
Absolutely. There's so much autonomy in going in that route, actually. Uh, Again, I think segueing into something very similar, I was watching one of your videos of Women of the World, and one of the ladies in the Women of the World was talking about a very similar experience where you asked her if she wanted to audition and she became a part of this project.
Right.
And also talking about this project itself, the Women of the World, I see you standing tall, standing so proud, sari clad with a nice bindi, exuding so much confidence, so much power. When I say power, it is in a democratic sense where, there's so much positivity when we see you on the stage. It's almost like you're calming everybody and you're setting the stage for everybody to perform, sort of a thing. The videos also were so inspiring from the Women of the World project. Did you want to talk about this project?
Yeah, Women of the World has been such an integral to my life for the last 12 years. And it was started by a Japanese vocalist, Ayumi Ueda, whose idea was to bring women from different parts of the world together to sing, to perform, to tour, to travel together, and use that opportunity to understand more about each other's cultures and see if that was even possible to do. And the group has gone through many iterations, but for the last 10 years, we've had a quartet. So it's Ayumi from Japan, Giorgia Reynoso from Italy, Debo Ray, who's the one that you were talking about. She's an American with Haitian heritage, and myself from India. And it's amazing, again, full of joy. and fun and randomness. We are very opinionated, all four of us. So there's always some sort of creative argument that's happening. And I think that's part of the fun of it. Even though the group was brought together to, work towards, I think, more understanding, more harmony between different cultures. One thing that is important that we have practiced through our lives together is that there's a notion of peace which people have, or an image of peace which is devoid of conflict. But peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is working through conflict. And that is a very big part of our reality as four extremely and sometimes even diametrically opposite, in terms of views, four people coming together, and we now sing in about 37 languages, and we tour the world. We love food and we love meeting people. We love hearing stories and learning about the culture and tradition of so many different places through the opportunities that we get as a touring group. And most of all, there's just a lot of joy. It's truly a family. It's truly a sisterhood. And we're so grateful that Ayumi had this idea. It started as a class project for her senior recital, and who knew that it would take off in this way? And so I think we always say this at concerts, especially when we do workshops in schools and colleges, to really listen to your heart, listen to any instinct that you have about an idea, about a dream, because it could become your way of life if you give it a little time, a little love, and lots of patience.
Absolutely. This is something that's going to be a takeaway for me, what you just said. Although, these are all the things that validate our understanding. You talked about peace is something that you arrive at trying to go through conflicts. And you also have to take a few steps, reflect, and see what could have been done better or what could have been different, and put our egos and pride aside and understand what the other person is saying, which is so important when we're working in a group. Again, I think during the pandemic is when you started releasing a few podcasts about alignment and meditation and all-roundedness in general. And voice, I guess, is a manifestation of somebody's personality. And anything that comes out of our voice is probably a very nuanced expression of some emotion or a sentiment that we are housing within ourselves. And the more we explore ourselves and reflect, I guess, the more we know about ourselves. It also helps us in some form in music as well. So the podcast that you released at that time, what was it about? And if you wanted to talk about the content of what you had done.
Yeah, thank you for asking about that, Deepa. So, when the pandemic started, I remember I was on tour with Women of the World, and it came to a grinding halt. We had 9 months of touring, and suddenly March 15th, that was it. It was just a complete full stop. So I came home and I happened to talk to one of the senior leaders at Berklee. His name was Panus Panay, and we were talking about sort of the changes that were seeing within our community, within the world. And he had seen me do a workshop for a teacher training session in Spain earlier that year. And he said, there was some of the things that you did in that session were interesting, and, it was also very calming. And would you want to try doing something for the Berklee community? So that's actually where the idea came. And I did a little bit of, brainstorming, and I talked to another colleague of mine, Maria Goldberg at Berklee. And I said, this idea came up, and what about if it was a 15-minute segment every day, now that we're starting the pandemic, and anyone can join, and probably I can do it online, I can do it on social media. So it's a live session, and what shall we call it? And she said, yeah, let's not call it meditation, because I think people have, a different connotation of that. It turns some people off. You want this to be open to everyone. And through that, she suggested, what about something about light, or keeping it light? And I said, oh, keeping it light. That's funny. I use that phrase a lot in daily life. And, I've used it even as a caption on many photographs of mine, keeping it light. And, there's a pun on that, right? You could keep it light, meaning don't take anything too seriously, but also keeping light, with yourself, looking on the bright side of things, or looking on the lighter side of things. You could interpret it in so many ways. So that's where it started, somewhere in March 2020. And it was 15 minutes, and I just enjoyed it so much. Again, it always comes down to that. I personally enjoyed doing those sessions. I used to do a lot of research because I wanted to pick topics that would be helpful in day-to-day life. So, everything from progress versus perfection, or, simple ways to find your center, using your senses, or visualization, meditation. Someone wrote to me and asked, they had just lost their niece. The whole family was going through grief, and they said, could you do a session on trauma, how to overcome grief after, losing a loved one? And so I did a lot of research on those specific topics. And as a layperson, I'm not a medical professional. I don't claim to be. I'm not a trained psychologist or psychiatrist, but I'm very in tune with spiritual practices of my own type, and I have seen the impact that music and meditation has brought to my personal mental health. So that's really where it came across, and also funny things, simple things like, what can we learn from ants, or what can we learn from elephants, and the beautiful thing was, I was able to do 100 episodes, and a community of people from all over the world began to tune in, and I have met and made some of my closest friends who were strangers up until this online reflection series began. And they've become part of the Keeping It Light circle, the Keeping It Light family. And one of them, her name is Shine. I had never met her except text, or one or two, a few phone calls, and primarily through this. She's become like a goddaughter to my parents in India, and I met her for the first time last month. But she had met my family, several times. And it's just amazing, the power of the internet and the power of human connection, that is possible when people who have a similar wavelength are connecting. There's such deep power, is the best word, in energy, and positive vibration, and reflection, where you're able to build each other up. So that's where it started, and I really want to get back to it. After I did the 100 episodes, I took a little bit of a hiatus because I was doing this almost every day. I was doing it 7 days a week initially, then I made it 5 days a week, and then the last 20 episodes, I think I did it over 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. but the joy and the relationships that have come out of it are, you know, just priceless. You cannot put a value to that. So really, thank you to Panos, who just came up with this idea, because I don't know that I would have considered doing it on my own. And now, you know, I want to write a book. I want to do a formal podcast. You know, I want to take this around the world and yeah, do something really beautiful with it.
More power to you, Annette. And I think anything you set your heart in, it's going to be so awesome. And I was just thinking, all of these things that came out as content, it's really not easy to do day after day after day. Even if you did have a certain thing in mind, to actually streamline everything and to present it, it's a lot of work along with all the other things that you do. So if you did 100 episodes and if you did 7 days initially for a couple of weeks, those are all your experiences that were archived somewhere in the back of your mind that just found a when to come out, and you just polished it with research. And what a beautiful thing it would be when you release a book based on these topics. And I completely agree with you on the frequency. We all radiate at different frequencies, and when the right kind of people who radiate at the same frequencies come together, the world is a beautiful place. And for people who help us discover that, I think wonderful. I think it's just a blessing. Also, you have had the opportunity to work with the most famous musicians in the world, and in India alone, you have worked with Ustad Zakir Hussain, you worked with Shankar Mahadevan, Shreya Ghoshal, and you also hosted the concert for A.R. Rahman, which was a sold-out concert. You had about 100 plus musicians on the stage and 60,000 people world over watching. What an experience that must have been. And so much of learning must have come from that concert. Few experiences of that, if you would like to talk about.
गिलास आधा खाली मैं बोलूं आधा भरा मैं बोलूं कितना सारा तू बोले जरा जरा मैं बोलूं दिन है तो तू बोले रात नहीं बात तो वही है ना बस वही बात नहीं
बात तो है बस यही के मेरी बात बस
जाने तू ये जाने ना माने तू ये माने ना.
It struck me at that concert more than a lot of other concerts. What a beautiful opportunity, and what an important responsibility we have to share aspects of our culture with the world. And I remember some of our Berklee colleagues who are non-Indians who attended the concert. You know, yes, there were 60,000 people online, 66, I think, 66,000 people online, but 2,500 people in Boston Symphony Hall. You know, we had taken a year and a half to prep for that one night. And, you know, even choosing the repertoire took about a year because we had, it was a similar conundrum like when I got to Berklee, what not to do. With Mr. Rahman's music, it was what not to play. You know, what do you leave out? You know, it's all so profound, and he's such a prolific composer, and you know, where do you start? So for us, when we did the show, I think our non-Berklee colleagues were kind of awestruck, not only by the depth and the beauty and the variety of music that has come forth from this one mind, one spirit, you know, that is A.R. Rahman, but also what rabid fans everyone is of this music, because we would play one note or two little beats, and the 2,500 people in that hall would just erupt into like wild, crazy energy. And I think a lot of times, the non-Indians were like, "Oh, whoa, okay, I didn't expect that." And that is, I think, when it struck them what a demigod status Mr. Rahman has in India and in the Indian diaspora. People flew in from Canada, South Africa, Dubai, Bahrain, Australia for this one night, and it was, I mean, it was an honor and a delight, and you know months of sleeplessness to
Definitely.
get it across. I slept for 1 hour the night before that show. I was at Berkeley working on something till 5 a.m. I went home. I slept for an hour. I dressed, showered, showered, dressed, and then came back for the workshop. So it was a crazy, wild ride, and our students, I think, also just immersed completely into this music. We did 16 sections in that concert, but there were probably around 40 songs that we managed to encompass within that show. And yeah, it just makes you admire, his musical prowess, Mr. Rahman's musical prowess. And he was very gracious. He came in, and uh, I think he was also a little bit surprised at how we had chosen to interpret his music. And that was very heartening for us and for our, arrangers and musicians in the band. Um, yeah, just a fantastic opportunity to, humbly pay tribute to someone whose music was and is the soundtrack of our lives.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. When you have executed a program of that nature, as big as that, so the next thing that would come to your mind is what next? Do you have any plans of hosting a program? I know that we are still getting through with pandemic and everything. We're not out of the woods yet, but you also talked about a 10-year vision. So are you working on a certain project?
Yeah, we're at a very interesting transitional phase with Berklee India, which is the parent institute under which the Berklee Indian Ensemble has been run for 11 years. Ensemble's videos have 255 million views, which makes up 51% of Berklee's entire views on YouTube. And we've done a decade of sold out concerts, whether with prolific artist or whether with the ensemble members itself, which were usually current students and recent graduates. And I think over this past decade, the senior leadership at Berklee has noticed that not only is there such a demand and such a loyal global audience for this ensemble, but there is so much potential that is left to be explored within South Asian music and culture and art. And so the 10-year vision encompasses three focal points. One, of course, is our education wing. We will always, keep that as one of the biggest foundational aspects. But within that, not only are we doing our academic offering in Boston, we'd love to, start a community ensemble of sorts, because several people in our New England community are very interested in joining an ensemble of this nature, and we would like to do some sort of summer program, even a Gurukul system, which is like a 1 week Gurukul system, where we invite a high profile artist to come in, a guru to come in, and we will open this up to the community. So that's number one. We're looking at online education in a much more serious way now, especially coming out of a pandemic that the world has experienced. And we feel like the way that we approach Indian music, whether classical or folk or Sufi or contemporary Indian music, has a very global flavor to it, because of the people that have been involved in the ensemble all these years, and the institute all these years. And we feel like there is a huge potential for musicians from any part of the world to immerse themselves within the idiom of Indian music, using the global approach and global application that we bring. And so we already have 50 course titles in mind. This is probably, again, a 10-year rollout plan, but that's on the cards. We also want to do more teacher training and support for music and art and performing arts teachers in India. So eventually, we might set up a foundation in India to galvanize CSR support to do this kind of work. What a lot of people don't realize, that the institute is donor funded. It is self-funded. It is not funded by the college, because the things that we do are so far out of the regular academic things that the college does, that they'll support in some small ways, but my team is entirely funded through either philanthropy or through revenue that we generate ourselves through our concerts and other programs. And so it is a startup at the college. Similar, MIT has startups. We're completely, self-driven, and that's why the idea for a foundation for the work that we're doing in India. We've been doing workshops since 2015. We want to keep doing that. We have a boot camp model that we want to take across the world, not just in India or the States. And scholarships is a huge focus for us. We've been able to we've done about $2.6 million in scholarship over the last 7 years, and there's much more to be done. There are many, many really talented musicians that require funding. And for me, when I look at it, it's not just to come in for education. It could be other opportunities that they might want to explore, which might be in their own country or in surrounding countries. Whatever we can do, to help people harness their creativity, to give themselves permission to be expressive, that's the goal. That's the goal more than come to Berklee education. If Berklee is right for you, if it's a right fit, great. If it's not, and you can be creative in whatever way with your local resources, that's really, really important. So we want to do that. And this is all just part, I think I'm going off into a tangent because I'm very, very passionate about this, but education wing is one, and innovation wing is the second, community wing is the third. Under innovation, the Berklee Indian Ensemble is being launched as the college's first professional touring entity. So we will be a band in residence. There will be 11 permanent members that represent actually 11 regions of the world. We have a debut album which will release in the summer this year. We have Grammy aspirations, so we will be submitting this album of 10 songs, which have, it's a commemorative album, so it's got 98 musicians on it. We just finished mixing and mastering that, so that'll be releasing this summer, and then we want to submit that for the Grammys because why not? We have a stadium show planned at some point. We're talking to one or two stadiums right now to see when we can do that. We've got Netflix and other aspirations. We want to keep doing really innovative, cutting edge live experience design with our productions. So there's that whole side of things, which is innovation and industry related. And then the community side, the way that we see community is beyond just creating a family or creating a network or creating a support base, but how can you use music beyond the agenda of education and entertainment? How can you use music for social justice, for mental health awareness, for blurring the polarization that is happening in our world right now, whether it's in Spain or whether it's in India as well? There's a lot of polarization, and separation of people that's happening due to belief systems, due to economic structures, political structures. So how can you use music to create spaces for safe dialogue, um, and uh, and again for healing. And healing could be in multiple ways, whether it's through music therapy, or it's through conversation, or it's through life skills that come through music making, that are transferable skills, in really any industry. So part of that was the reason I came back to Boston a few days ago. I did a music, meditation, and mental health workshop at Wayfair for their employees, and we want to do this in schools, in colleges, in the corporate world, in government spaces. There is a requirement for this, and especially coming out of the pandemic. I think the pandemic brought to light a lot of things that our communities are struggling with, and attention has to be paid to them, and preventative solutions need to be introduced at, at all ages. So that's the that's as short as I could make it. I'm sorry, it was a very long answer, but there's just so much in store. I mean, we really are in empire expansion mode. That I think that's the best way to describe it.
I enjoyed every bit of it because the beauty of the mind is so beautiful. The more you do, the more it wants to do. And you were talking about this program that you had in Wayfair, and I mean, these are things that I would like to understand. What was the feedback like? What impact did it have? I mean, each person connects with these things very differently, and that itself is another thing to go off of, right? So these are all the things that keep adding to the huge repertoire of ideas and concepts that you're working on. Uh, the one thing is the idea that comes out of your mind and then you execute it, and the feedback that you get from it. It must be such a gratifying experience also, isn't it?
Yeah, feedback can be both. Feedback can be positive, feedback can be negative, and I think you have to have a very strong why. If your why is rooted, then even if you yourself doubt whether you're taking the right step, you can come back to your anchor, which is your why. And if the why is still, what's the word? If your why is still the truth for you, if your why is still your northern star, if it's still relevant, then you're on the right path. You know, or you at least have the right goal destination. You might change path, and that's fine. It's okay, and it's good to change your route sometimes. So yeah, a lot of mistakes have to be made, and have to be enjoyed, I think,
Yes,
on the way.
yes, absolutely. With all of this said, what is a day in Annette's life like?
Fun.
What's the point if we don't have fun doing what we do? Oh my God, it has been so wonderful talking to you, Annette. There's so much we learn, and
Love.
the mind is such a powerful thing, and the way you structure it. And I wish you all the success for all the projects, and may you have the energy to execute all of these, and may you find tremendous success in everything you do. And I thank you so very much for coming to the Raga Room and talking to me today.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm just so happy to meet you, Deepa, and I love the way your mind works. I love the way that you kind of conceptualize different, pathways for the conversation to flow. You're just such a easy person to talk to and share ideas with, and I think I would love the tables to be reversed, because I want to be on the listening side, hearing how you navigate your life, and how you what inspires you and how you make choices in your life, because clearly you're so rooted and grounded and centered, and just such a delight to meet you today. Thank you for having this platform for all of us and for everyone that watches.
Thank you. It'd be so nice to have a
Right.
conversation. Hopefully soon. I really hope that it happens. And thank you so much, Annette. You have a
Yes,
wonderful day.
yes, yes. Thank you, Deepa. Lots of love.
Lots of love. Bye for now. Dear viewers, we thank you so very much for joining us on this episode of the Raaga Room. We hope you enjoyed this episode just as much as we did bringing it to you. We'll continue to see us in our upcoming episodes where the soul listens as notes speak. Thank you and have a wonderful day. For more information, please visit our website www.theragaroom.com. Thank you.